Christianity, it is mysticism. In Judaism, it is the Kabbalah. In Buddhism, it is Zen. In Islam, it is Sufism.
Break the mosque, destroy the temple, destroy all this temporal, but never destroy the heart of a human being, because that's where God lives.
Extremists are putting the fear of God in the hearts and the minds of the people, and the Sufis are putting the love of God in the hearts and the minds of people.
This is the shrine of Sayyid Ahmad Sakhi Sarwar, a 13th century Sufi saint. 2 suicide bombers attacked worshippers here, killing 42 people, including women and children. More than 100 people were seriously injured. A 3rd bomber was arrested after his suicide vest failed to explode. The scars from the shrapnel unleashed in the bombing remain. The terrorists picked the busiest time of year at the shrine for their attack. Thousands of Sufi Muslims were gathered at the shrine. Sufism is a mystical branch of Islam, and most Pakistanis follow Sufi traditions. The Pakistan faction of the Taliban claimed responsibility for the attack, and it wasn't the first. The Taliban has attacked 4 religious shrines in the past 6 months. But the question is why? Why are shrines, places of Muslim worship, under attack? It's a key question for the United States. Understanding the Taliban's mindset, strategies and targets as it reassesses its relationship with Pakistan. Our journey begins in Sevan, on the west bank of the Indus River in the barren landscape of Sindh, home to many Sufi saints.
Well, one of my courtesies at the shrine visitation is to buy some flower petals. Now, one can buy flowers, 10 rupees ki patti.
I joined Abbas Hussain, an Islamic scholar and Sufi murid or follower, who took us to where his introduction to Sufism began.
This is Sevan Sharif, home to Lal Shahbaz Qalandar. Rich and poor, old and young, the sick and the hopeful, all come here to pay their respects to the great Sufi saint.
Millions of people travel to Sufi shrines around the world and in South Asia, in the hopes their prayers will be answered. Shrines hold special significance for Sufis, what Abbas Hussain calls sacred geography.
All saints, sages, prophets, by having lived on a land or a piece of space, have blessed it. Jerusalem is blessed because Jesus is there. The city of Makkah is blessed. The house of God is there. The city of Medina is blessed. The prophet is there, etc., etc. Sacred geography is a place blessed by a sanctified person buried there. So any spiritual practice done there is amplified in its impact. People come here to feel that amplification and that barakah and that grace.
It was at Sevan Sharif more than 30 years ago that Abbas Hussain, a young English literature graduate and moderate Muslim, first stepped on the Sufi path.
24th June 1980 is a date inscribed on my heart like my date of birth. I had no intention of coming or any great major life trauma or anything. But when I entered here and when I sat, something overcame me, an enormous bout of weeping, 3.5 hours, which absolutely pulverized my body and spirit, left me fit for nothing. But at the end of that, a part of me was as surprised as any onlooker. At the end of that, and over time, I understood that a major paradigm shift had taken place. Some clarity had emerged, some understanding that life was for a greater purpose than the things I had given it to, and a desire to seek that purpose would be my entry point on the path, in a very humble.
The rituals are similar at every shrine, paying one's respects to the saint, laying flowers on his grave. We received shrouds embroidered with Arabic scriptures once laid on Lal Shahbaz Qalandar as a special token of our visit. Very few people are honoured with this privilege. Visitors then pray for the saint's soul and all those who have passed on to the afterlife. The childless woman, a jobless young man, the sick or ill, also make a sort of pilgrimage to the shrines, praying for miracles, pinning their hopes and prayers on their favored saint to help those wishes be granted by Allah.
Everyone is welcome at a shrine, be he religious or non-religious, rich or poor, man, woman, child, or a pickpocket, or a vendor trying to sell something, or a person seeking for some spiritual knowledge.
Arib Azhar is an up-and-coming singer on the Pakistani music scene. As well as modern pop music, Arib sings Sufi Kalam, which is folk music in which the poetry of Sufi saints is sung as lyrics.
Arz fakir karenda jo koi aape changa hove sabnu pala take. I started reading their poetry, and then I started composing their poetry and started singing their poetry because it made sense to me. What I find beautiful in it is an uncompromising message of humanity, of hope in the potential of being human. For me, it's a very, very honest expression of the human condition, and it's something that accepts that every leaf on every tree is different. So all of us are different, and that's what makes us beautiful. So it celebrates diversity.
Music is an integral part of worship at Sufi shrines. As night falls, the hypnotic beating of drums draws more worshippers. At Seven Sharif, sunset draws thousands of people for the Dhamal. With every beat, meditation and prayer turns to a sweet intoxication of the mind and spirit as followers and inquisitive visitors start to tap their feet and raise their hands in adulation for both God and their beloved saint. But it is the very nature of these rituals and the inclusion of music, singing and dancing as part of praying or worship that infuriates some fundamentalist Muslims and in turn leads to violent extremist attacks. In 18th century Saudi Arabia, a new puritanical sect of Islam was developed by Abdul Wahhab. His followers are known as Wahhabis or Salafi Muslims, living, preaching, and imposing an extremely strict code of conduct. And it's Wahhabi Islam that has been exported to Pakistan and followed by groups like the local Taliban.
They consider the slightest deviation from their version of Islam, even the slightest, as a person becoming non-Muslim. And so the Arabic term they use is wajibul qatl. Wajibul qatl means it is mandatory to be killed.
The Wahhabi point of view is an errant or an aberrant point of view. Never in the history of Islam has it ever happened that a sect, a group of people have declared the rest of Muslims as non-Muslims. There have been great scholars who have had enormous difference of opinion, the great masters of the law, Imam Shafi, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Imam Abu Hanifa. When these great imams, teachers, masters were alive, they did have difference of opinion. Never ever did they, on the basis of their difference of opinion, declare others to be non-Muslims. They simply said, we disagree on this. But they never said the other person is out of Islam. Only the Wahhabite sect has declared the rest of the Muslim world, from Morocco to Malaysia, to be non-Muslim if it disagrees with them.
While Wahhabis have a very rigid view of God, his worship and Islamic practice, Sufis believe they are still on the path to discovery, to question, to better understand both themselves and God. Fundamentalists, including Wahhabis, say shrines and the form of worship there are un-Islamic. The term they use is shirk, which is a sin committed when someone believes another being, including a saint, has equal powers or abilities to Allah. Khalid Zahir is an Islamic scholar and a director at Al-Mawrid, an NGO established to promote research and education on Islam.
Visiting shrines may not be shirk in all cases. There could be somebody who could go to a shrine in the hope that he is actually praying for the better future of the saint who is buried there, for his elevation of status in the eyes of the Almighty. But if you're going there in the hope that the saint who is buried there is going to be more effective and influential in enabling your tasks, your ambitions to be achieved, whether in this world or in the hereafter, then you're actually pinning your hopes on the saint, which actually should have been pinned on God Almighty, because it's only God who can hear our prayers, and it's only He who can actually respond to them.
Look at the people praying here. They are all reading from the Quran. If they don't have the Quran in their hands, they are reciting it from the memorized parts that they have. What shirk do people see here?
Extremist groups have been attacking shrines all over the world. Even Prophet Muhammad's final resting place is reported to have once been demolished so as to stop it from becoming a shrine. The first major attack here in Pakistan that drew national attention to the campaign against shrines and Sufism was in March of 2009 at the famous Sufi poet Rahman Baba's shrine. We travelled to Hazar Khwani on the outskirts of Peshawar, where Rahman Baba is buried.
This Sufi tradition amongst the Pashtuns is very strong. It has been part of the culture, daily life.
Ijaz Khattak is a professor at Peshawar University in the capital of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. He says that Sufism is an integral part of life here for the dominant ethnic group, the Pashtuns.
They all be religious people. They'll be praying, fasting, everything, but they enjoy music. They'll be going and talking to them. So it was a part of our hujra or of life, reciting poetry from them, talking them. It was part of daily life. That is why, you see, Pashtuns, when they say that religion is part of Pashtun culture, it's not the religion that is portrayed today. It is the religion of peace, religion of Sufism.
Rahman Baba's poetry is part of everyday life for Pashtuns in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Mothers read to children at bedtime, and his words of wisdom have become part of the local language.
Rahman Baba is the poet laureate of the Pashtun society. I mean, he is one of the two names that every Pashtun is familiar with. Go to the most uneducated and most remotest part of Pakhtunkhwa, the most illiterate, you would say that this one, and they would know one or two verses of Rahman.
On the 5th of March 2009, Taliban rebels bombed Rahman Baba's shrine. 2 years on, it's now being rebuilt, and this scaffolding protects his grave. And although the Taliban's campaign against shrines had been going on for many years, it was perhaps this attack that was the most significant, that drew public attention and condemnation.
Before that event, the general feeling, impression of Taliban was positive. They considered that these people are fighting for the greater glory, cause, respect of rights of Muslims and of Islam. However, this single act, there may have been others, but this single act most importantly affected the image of Taliban in the minds of the people more negatively. They started asking questions. Why? Who are these people who are taking this most important representative of Islam?
और जब यहाँ पे अटैक हुआ है, वो क्या असर हुआ लोगों पर, उनको दुख लगा, क्या हुआ?
सब लोगों का, सब मुसलमानों का, इसने सब मुसलमानों को दर्द दिया.
Everyone in Pakistan, because he taught every Pakistani and every Muslim a great lesson. His writings are a lesson to them all, so even people abroad have shed tears for him. That's how upset they are.
इतना खफा हो गए हैं ये लोग.
और अब लोगों का आना जाना भी रुक गया है या लोग आते हैं?
लोग आते हैं.
They still come, a lot. There are festivals here too, but people are scared.
Back on the road, we drive to Lahore, the City of Lights, the capital of the Punjab province. Lahore is home to many heritage sites. The Lahore Fort, Mughal Emperor Jahangir's tomb, the Badshahi Masjid, one of the largest mosques in the world, and the Data Darbar, the shrine of Data Ganj Baksh, the giver of spiritual treasures, a 10th century and highly revered Sufi.
जब आप आते हैं यहाँ पे दुआ करने आपको क्या महसूस होता है?
हाँ हाँ हम जब आते हैं उस वक्त बीमार होते हैं जिस वक्त हम
When we
यहाँ
come,
आते
we
हैं,
are sick.
बिल्कुल दुरुस्त,
When we
ठीक-ठाक,
leave,
खुशहाल
we are
हो
perfectly
जाते हैं।
fine and well.
हमारी रूह जो ताज़ा हो
Our
जाती
soul
है।
is cleansed.
और जब से यहाँ पे काफ़ी हादसे हुए हैं और बम धमाका हुआ है, आपको डर नहीं लगता यहाँ आने के लिए?
आशिकों को डर नहीं
Those in
लगता।
love don't fear
जो
anything.
लोग आशिक होते हैं ना,
People who
किसी
truly
के-
love someone
उनको
don't feel
खौफ नहीं
fear.
आता। हम
We are
उनके
his
दीवाने
beloved
हैं,
followers,
हम उनके
and we
मस्ताने
are
हैं।
intoxicated by him.
वो हमारी
He is
शमअ
our
है।
light.
आप कभी नहीं रुकेंगे आने?
ना कभी
No,
जिंदगी में नहीं
never.
रुकते।
I would
आखिरी
even wish
दम
to
भी
take
इनके
my
कदमों
last
में
breaths
गुजार
in
देंगे।
this shrine.
45 people were killed and 175 injured when 2 Taliban suicide bombers unleashed their deadly payload amongst the worshippers here.
And so this most welcoming hub in the center of the city has been transformed into a high security building. Every individual is body searched and every single bag checked before anyone can enter. 450 police officers stand guard in a 24-hour cycle.
But the danger, past and present, has not deterred his followers who flock from all over the country and the world to pay their respects and seek their heart's desire.
Hundreds of thousands of people from across Punjab come to a shrine where I'm from. But I come here because of his uniqueness. We come here and take his blessings back with us.
We have come from India to make this pilgrimage to the Datta Darbar Shrine, which we've heard so much about. We are very pleased to be here at his shrine.
Some people bombed the shrine. It really hurt me. I came here and cried so much. I like all the shrines in Pakistan, but I come here especially.
I had just paid my respects and prayed in the shrine. I thought it was getting late, so we should go home. We had just left when we heard there'd been a bombing. We rushed home. We were very saddened by the attack at the shrine of such a pure soul. It's such a bad thing. I hope God either helps them mend their ways or deals with them. They are so sick that they attacked a shrine.
At the time of our visit, the city was also hosting a Sufi music festival, bringing international musicians to the stage for revelers flocking from across the country. Faizan Pirzada is a director at the Rafi Pir Theatre, which organises music festivals in Pakistan.
The Rafi Pir Theatre Workshop's main aim was to promote Sufi music because this has so much to say through the poetry. And then in the recent times, I think it has more importance because this message could change or maybe it could bring some change in Pakistan through the philosophy of the Sufi. And to continue this work, I think it is more important now than before because we're losing ground and we're losing patience.
The promotion of music and the arts has not gone unnoticed, drawing commendation and condemnation alike.
We've been bombed 3 times, once at the World Performing Arts Festival, once a night before the Sufi Festival. And this year we were ready to go, meaning the building is there, it's all, the setup is there, and 350 artists were arriving in Lahore. And this year we thought that we will continue, despite all these odds.
But news of Osama bin Laden's death in the northern city of Abbottabad led to security fears across the country. The festival was cancelled. The musicians, though, were invited to perform their works at a local TV studio instead, to be televised at a later date, as festival organisers aim to reach an even wider audience in spite of the threats. Karachi, Pakistan's financial hub and city by the sea, believed to be protected from the water's wrath by the great Sufi saint Abdullah Shah Ghazi. He's famed for keeping the sea calm and fishermen's catch thriving.
Until October 2010, the province of Sindh had been spared from shrine attacks. But terrorists pick this most famous of landmarks, a centrally located soft target for their next major attack. The heightened security at Abdullah Shah Ghazi's shrine is a testament to the ever-growing threat.
The Taliban claim their attacks are justified as they are battling for an Islamic caliphate. Their campaign of terror is in the name of Islam. But Islamic scholars like Khalid Zahir and Abbas Hussain beg to differ. They have their own interpretations of the Quran. And while the two may not agree about Sufism and shirk, they do agree that the desecration of graves and shrines is un-Islamic.
Even if shirk is being committed in its most blatant form, nobody has a right to attack and to be violent, because it can only be addressed through an Islamic state, and that also not through force, but through convincing and teaching and preaching. Nobody has a right to attack shrines under any pretext whatsoever.
Through the ages, Islam has had nothing to do with this sort of senseless violence. Islam abhors the fact that unarmed human beings, men, women, children, be harmed in any way. And these people somehow seem to have put all those teachings aside in this self-righteous arrogance and are now going about doing this huge amount of harm to themselves and to the world.
But beyond the bombs and religious rhetoric, the Taliban's campaign against shrines has a deeper and potentially long-term impact on Pakistan.
Part of them may be due to strictly religious beliefs, but partly the political mind considers culture to be a prime, a more important hurdle in their overall plans to go beyond these territorial limits. And so they are attacking not just shrines, they attack traditional music, and they attack everything that has been identified with the people and their ways of life from centuries, which gives people a sense of identity, a sense of belonging to the soil, a sense of ownership. This has to be cut off from the people. Only then they become part of their larger agenda. So I think shrines, hitting the shrines is part of that all carefully planned strategic longer view.
While security is being stepped up at most shrines in unequal measure, the psychological and cultural impact of the attacks is perhaps even more damaging in the long run. Whatever the reasons, and whoever is accepting responsibility, the terror attacks continue to spread geographically and grow in number, each one more deadly than the previous, increasing pressure on a society already under attack and pressure on a government and key American ally struggling to deal with the battle against both extremism and terrorism.
If you've got it, watch it. If you don't, call your TV provider to get HD Net today.